Hey guys, Michelle from Michelle's Craft Corner here. In today's basic video, we're going to cover adhesives. Stampin' Up! Currently offers a wide variety of adhesives for your crafting needs, and we're going to cover all of those that are currently available, how to use them, and some different tips and tricks. Let's get started. So you can find the selection of adhesives that we currently carry in the Stampin' Up! Catalog. Now this is page 202 and 203 of our current annual 2017-2018 catalog, but there's always an adhesives section. What I really wanted to point out for you guys in the catalog right now is there's this handy chart which lists all the adhesives and just the different suggested uses for each one. But you can see we do have quite a variety. We're going to cover all of them today, but I just wanted to show you where in the catalog you can find those for purchase. So we're just going to move right along, and I want to start off with currently my favorite adhesive, the one that I use the most for my cards, and that is our Multipurpose liquid glue. It looks like this. It's from Tombow brand. When you get it, it'll have this plastic seal just to kind of hold it, so you just peel that off and take that shell off. Now what I love about the Tombow liquid adhesive is it's got the two tips, so depending on what project you're gluing, move this off to the side, now I've got a handy sheet of black paper just to kind of show the different ones as we go along. So it's got a fine tip and then also a broad tip. Now keep in mind that glue is in the center in liquid form and it'll slosh back and forth depending on which end you use. I compare it to a really high quality Elmer's liquid white glue that dries clear. So I'm going to show you right here. This is that nice thin line of tape, or excuse me, line of glue. And then it's also got a broad tip for maybe more broader, thicker application. Kind of spread it out. Now I will tell you, I rarely use the broad tip. Just because a lot of card projects just, only need just a little bit around the edges or just on key spots. So I find that I use less using the small tip. Now, other handy thing of note is the flat end of this is unfortunately on the broad tip. So when it sits, the glue slides down to the broad tip that I don't tend to use as much. So what I have found to be really handy is just having an empty little jar and set that on my desk so that the glue is always on the end that I tend to use more. It just slides down, it's ready to go. Otherwise, as it gets a little more empty, you may have to shake it to kind of get it to flow to that finer end. Also, if on off chance, let me grab a different one here, you leave the cap off, which sometimes happens as we're crafting. We tend to forget to put the cap on. Sometimes the glue will get kind of stuck on the little end, and you could just kind of peel that off, the little dried bits. But what's nice about this is you also have this little tip that you can just unscrew. It screws right off. So if glue did get dried in that tip, you could just get a toothpick or run some warm water on it just to empty that. So it's really easy to kind of keep it from getting too clogged. But just remember to put your cap on and you won't really have that problem as much. But if you do, that's simply how you would fix it. Same thing with the other end. It doesn't really come undone, but you can just throw a toothpick down in there to unclog it, or a needle or something just small and strong. So that is our first one. That is the Multipurpose liquid glue. Now moving along, I'm going to go with the next one that's super popular with first-time crafters. Now I definitely recommend this when working with kids or with people that might have arthritis or issues with their hands and squeezing a tube or something. The snail adhesive is just a really awesome adhesive to use. Now this is not as strong a tack as some of our other adhesives, but for paper on paper or simple projects, this will just do fine for you. And it's got this little handy trap door. You want to make sure that that's down. And when using it, you're going to run it like a tape runner. But to make sure that you're not doing it upside down, because a lot of people do them upside down, you want to be sure that the door side is down. So door side down, and you'll know that you have it the right way. The other thing is you don't have to press really hard. A lot of people want to really press or really run it. You really don't need to do that. It's just a gentle line. So we're just going to go, and you'll hear it click. I don't know if you can, oh yeah, there you go. You can see a little tape line right there. And when you just pick it up, it naturally breaks. So this is just a really awesome starter adhesive. Now the other thing I wanted to share with you guys is after you use the tape a while, you'll get to a point where it won't go anymore because it's out of adhesive. So instead of throwing the whole thing away, all you need to do is buy a refill. Now the snail adhesive refills come like this in this handy case. And so what you would do is pop these two pieces apart. There's a little button right there on both sides. So you're going to press the button and it pops apart just like that. Now this would be empty, so you'll throw this part away, but you'll keep this part and just snap the new one in. The circles line up. It's just really easy to align and just hear that click. So instead of having to buy a whole new one for $7, you can just get the refills for $4.50, and they do last pretty well. But this is definitely my recommendation for starting crafters and for kids. It's just very, very easy to use. Right? So we are just moving right along. The next one, which is kind of the step up from the snail, is our Fast Fuse adhesive. Please ignore my dot. It just was differentiating it from somebody else's at a craft thing. Anyway, but it's very similar to the snail adhesive in design. It's another tape runner that you pull. Also similar, instead of buying a whole new one, we sell the refills. So just like the snail adhesive, you pop the thing apart and you snap the new one in. So very, very similar to that. Now the main difference between the Fast Fuse and the snail adhesive is this is a stronger tack. Now what I mean by stronger tack is that it's a stronger adhesive. So this would be better for projects that are going to get a little more wear and tear. Maybe they've got some bins, or they're going to be unique folded cards or something like that where you need it to hold up a little bit more. I would definitely recommend the Fast Fuse. Now there is a slight trick to using it, but once you get the hang of it, it is really easy to use, similar to the snail. Now just like the snail, you're going to take it and you're just going to do a gentle press and you're going to get that line. There it is. Okay, you can see it in the video. But instead of pulling straight up to break that line, you're going to do a check. So just a check to one corner or the other. Now that's because that adhesive is a little stronger. It just doesn't want to break on its own. Once you get the hang of doing those checks, it's really easy. But you can see there it is on there. Here we go. Okay. So another really strong adhesive. The nice thing about both the Fast Fuse and the snail is you don't have to wait for anything to dry. So that's another perk as well. I will show you too. So let's say you forgot to break it. Oh, let me see if I can get this in the camera. So if you forget to break it, what will happen is it'll just be staying like that. So you still need to be a little rough and tear it. Now the other handy trick with the Fast Fuse is if you check one way, it's good to check the opposite direction with your next use. And that's because the little tape on the end can kind of get stuck sometimes. It'll slide. So better to slide back and forth to kind of keep it in its spot. If it gets sticky, you just kind of clean that off. This one needs cleaning. But in general, it is just a really good all-around adhesive to use. The other thing with both of these, if you are trying to get it to run and for some reason you're not getting any tape to come out, you may need to advance the line. Just take your finger and kind of give it a gentle pull, that tape, so that the adhesive line contacts your paper. All right, so that is the Fast Fuse, is our next one. All right, so we're going to follow that up with another liquid glue. Now this is the fine tip glue pen. Let's stick that there. Okay. So when we say fine tip, we mean fine tip. So you just unscrew it like that and pull it up and you can see it is this tiny little, I don't know if I can zoom in here. Oh, trying to zoom in. Yeah, okay. So tiny, it's hard to zoom on. Okay, but it's a very, very tiny, like needle size tip that is really hard to focus on the camera. But this is really good for tiny adhesive projects, for thinlets. I know we've got a lot of different thinlets right now, so like snowflakes or different things. So instead of doing a broad stroke, because if you did this snail with this, you're going to have little bits of glue kind of in between those holes. If you did the multi-purpose liquid glue, it will kind of get a little messy sometimes with the thinner dyes. So this is a really great option. And for this, all you're gonna do is just do a couple dots on just the key parts that you want to adhere. It's a strong adhesive, so you don't need to glue the whole thing, but it is a really good one. So let me just do another little line here. So you can see it's, oh, there we go. It's just a thin, clear line. And there's a lot of really cool techniques you can do with the fine tip glue pen. You can kind of give something an enameled look by going over it. Since it dries clear, it kind of gives it like a little glass effect. But it's really particularly useful for just fine detailed accessories and fine detailed gluing. Now, because it is such a tiny tip, because it is such a tiny tip, now you really do need to be careful and remember to put the cap back on. Now the cap has this, and I really wish I could get this to zoom in. Let me try one more time. Nope. Oh, there it is. Okay, there's a better shot. Okay, so the cap has this tiny little needle-like piece inside, and you can see, oh, I still got glue on the tip there. Okay. And you can see just how tiny this is compared to my fingernail. Now, after you use it, you want to insert that needle back into the tip, and it'll slide right in. And what that does is it keeps that glue down, keeps that tiny little opening free from getting stuck, and it just screws on just like that. So you really do need to remember to put your cap on, especially for this one. Now when you get it brand new, there is a little white circle just inside. You unscrew and take that off to begin use. It is handy to put that back on. It just kind of keeps the glue from flowing up there and getting stuck between uses. But especially if you just remember to put the cap on, you will be okay. Let me zoom back out. There we go. So really handy glue adhesive. I haven't used it in videos recently, but I do actually use this a fair amount. Alright, so that is that one. Alright, moving right along, we're going to move on to our tear and tape adhesive. So this is another really cool adhesive. Comes in this nice handy roll. Let's see, we'll do it right there. Okay. Nice handy roll. Now this is really good for envelopes, for bags. This is another stronger adhesive tape. But what's nice is, let me just piece here. Just like the name suggests, you can easily tear it with your fingers, just like that. So you can tear off a piece. Now it's got a white backing on it, so like for envelopes or something that you're working on piece by piece, you can do little strips and just do section by section. But once you want to adhere it, you just peel off this white backing, just like that, and you have that tape underneath. So really another very handy adhesive, just depending on your project. This is a really nice one to use. Really good with ribbon or large embellishments, 3D projects, that kind of thing. So this is another really good one just to have available. All right, so moving on, we're just cranking through all of these. We're going to hit up the mini glue dots. Now, glue dots are awesome. If you're not familiar with glue dots, you really should. They come in all shapes and sizes. Well, they're all circles, but all different sizes. The Stampin' Up! Ones are currently the mini size, and that is just perfect for cards. And pull it out here. It comes in this little strip. And if you can see that, oh no, you probably won't be able to. So it's this tiny little dot. There we go. Little clear dot. You can just stick on a project. Let's see if I can pull that up to the camera so you can see. There you go, little dot. Now this is really good for tiny embellishments. So like buttons or little sentiments, just different things like that. Really good with kids, and yet again another good one that for those that might have some dexterity issues. You don't have to wait for anything to dry, you just stick it on and you're done. So the mini adhesive glue dots are awesome. And one box, I believe, comes with a pack of 300. Let me double check that. Yep, 300. So really handy. You can get a lot of use out of the glue dots. All right, moving on. Something else that is handy for small embellishments and different things, and that is our Stampin' Dimensionals. If you've seen any of my videos, you know I love dimensionals. They are so awesome, and such a small thing can make such a difference in your cards, in your projects, because they're just these little, let me show you, little foam dots. They're two-sided, they're little peel and stick. And it just has that tiny little depth that when stuck behind an embellishment or a sentiment can just give it that extra pop. So there, so you just stick it on, and then it's got a little adhesive paper backing similar to the Tear and Tape. You just peel off and then stick whatever you want on top of. So really love these, use these all the time. Handy tip. A lot of people, as they use them, they use all the little hexagons in the center, which is what you're supposed to do. But don't forget that besides the hexagons, you have these handy edges. Let me see if I can pull it off a little bit. You have all that edge piece, which is also basically dimensionals as well. So don't throw out your sheet and forget to use the edges as well. Make those last. But really love these. You can also cut them easily if you just want to do a smaller piece. But if you really find these are too big for you, what you may prefer to use instead is our new handy mini dimensionals. So they took the dimensionals and they shrunk them to a smaller size, and these are just so cute. Now I'm going to compare them one versus the other. So there's the standard one versus the new mini. So you can see that the smaller one is quite smaller, but is very handy for small, like doing the letters or just small detailed areas where you just don't need quite as big a piece. So both of these come in packs of 300, so you can really get a lot of use out of that. Similar to the regular dimensionals, you do have those edges to use, so don't forget to use your edges. But just really love the dimensionals, and they're just a quick and easy adhesive element that anybody can use, and I just love them. So definitely recommend the Stampin' Up! Dimensionals in the regular or mini, just depending on what project you want to do. All right, well, we are just making great progress. We are almost at the end of our adhesives. So the next one I want to share with you is Multipurpose Adhesive Sheets. That's my light there. So these are brand new. They come in these packs and they're pretty big. It's a 6x12 sheets, and there are 12 sheets in these. So you can really do a lot of projects with this because you don't need to use a whole sheet at a time. Now these work basically when you pull it out. I just cut a piece of it off, so you don't need to do the whole sheet, but you cut it off and you're going to peel off this top layer, and you're going to take your piece of cardstock, your sentiment, whatever you want to cut out and adhere, and stick it right on top, just right like that. And then you can stamp on it, run it through the Big Shot, you know, whatever you want to do, and it basically turns it into a giant sticker, which is so awesome, especially for dies like this particular one from the Rose Wonder Thinlet set. So if I pull this out, you can see it's got that plastic backing on it, and I can just gently peel this off and basically have a sticker for this Thinlet. So it's really awesome. Now I love this. Let's see if I can get it off in the shot. Okay, this is, okay, well, it got a little stuck. Magic camera, folks. But you can see with just the pieces that, off to the side. Oh no, there we go, okay. That it just basically turns all of those pieces into stickers, which is just really handy if you don't want to sit there and adhere a tiny die, you know, something that might take a while to do. And I don't have my die brush handy, so I'm just gonna poke it real quick. I should have done that first. Okay. There we go. So there it is. Ta-da! And you just have a handy piece. So you don't have to worry with the fine tip glue for those tiny dies or, you know, thin edges. You can just stick it on the sheet, run it through the Big Shot, and you can have those already glued and ready to go. So it's really, really awesome. I haven't honestly gotten to play with it as much as I would like, but I do really love the idea that I can do a whole bunch of the detailed Thinlets and framelets without having to worry about it not all sticking. So isn't that cool? Look at that. Ta-da. And so you can see just in the course of the video, our glues are already dry. So there's that thin, fine tip already dry. This one's already drying. It's pretty dry. So very, very handy. Last thing I wanted to tell you guys about for your gluing adhesive use is this handy sheet. Now this is the silicone craft sheet. Now this is one of those things that's often overlooked in the catalog. I know I was one that tended to overlook it as well till I saw another demonstrator share and talk about it. Now this is a really handy, it's a non-stick surface, so it's really good for your gluing because the glue will not stick to it. What happens is it will just puddle up. It'll just, you know, puddle up and dry on it, and you can just peel it right off. So it's really, really handy. I know a lot of projects you can tend to easily get glue on your workstation or on your paper, grid paper, but if you have your craft mat underneath, then you don't have to worry about getting your other papers sticky. So it's just a really handy thing to work on with your glues, and I will pick that up before it dries. But hopefully this video helped you with this different Stampin' Up! Adhesives. As always, if you have any questions or comments about any of the awesome Stampin' Up! Adhesives or just any Stampin' Up! Related questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Well, I hope you found this video useful. Do check out some of the other Stampin' Up! Basic card making videos. All right, bye-bye.